about whether or not to like raise taxes, and there was like this thing called like the it's like the fiscal cliff, and after a certain date, the Bush tax cuts just like reset back to the normal rate. So like the corporate tax goes up a little bit, and they were just waiting for that to happen. And Mitch McConnell was like freaking out, "Don't do it, don't do it, don't go off the fiscal cliff." And Reid was just like, "We're going to go off the fiscal cliff. It's going to happen." And when he talks to McConnell, and then McConnell calls Biden, and pretty much Biden gives him everything that he wants. So like that's a funny little story about what we can expect for the next few years. And
that's just
when Democrats on unprecedented amounts of power as well. So
I mean, that's just a conspiracy theory. I mean, I don't.
No, we got to know the context. We got to know everything.
Oh, I could send that
about Biden. So
I could send that. No, like that did actually happen.
I'm not saying that didn't happen, Spencer. I'm just saying like you have a hatred for Biden that like you just don't want anything to get done. So you have Bernie. Like, but the fact that Bernie lost.
I would like to. I hope I'm wrong.
He could have won. He chose not to be a good debater, and he chose to give Biden a fast pass.
Yes, he did.
And Bernie got.
I would say that. I would definitely say that. Like, and I'm not rooting against like more progress, but I'm just saying like the.
No. I'm not saying you can't say anything bad about Biden. It's just it almost sounds like you're rooting like that you don't want like Biden to do anything.
Well, I definitely do, but I just don't think Biden will do anything. I don't see
there
how
have been
is.
presidents.
I think all he'll do is public option, but I will agree on things like race and on things like taxes. Well, taxes he actually might do more than public option, but
I think
because he definitely will want to overturn the Trump tax cuts.
On things like race that are like, kind of like more symbolic than like structural, I think he'll do a lot. But like a lot of like kind of,
I think he's gonna be pressured now because the blacks like literally are giving him the Senate, and they're gonna give they literally gave him like So I mean, like he's gonna be pressured by a lot of people. I think the environment.
I think that's the biggest thing we have to do during the Biden years, which is like build that.
I mean, at least he
organization of some kind to pressure someone like
election.
Biden. So. And then it doesn't matter who we elect. If there's someone to pressure someone like Biden, then
I mean, at least Biden recognizes like the minority groups. I mean, I don't know about necessarily Hispanic, but it gave him, the election. Well, actually, I can't say Hispanic since Arizona and Nevada, basically. They kind of stayed with him, thank goodness. But like he did recognize that, they basically gave him the election. Like, in his speech, he was like, I can, I mean, it probably obviously he didn't write the speech. He didn't have to have that in there. That's my whole point. Like he definitely knows that like the African Americans gave him the election and most likely the U.S. Senate. And I just I cautiously am optimistic that he will recognize that and use that towards his advantage to get things done on race, on healthcare, on minimum wage. Actually, that's one thing I think will actually get passed. By the way,
that would be nice.
Nice.
Manchin.
But if they can,
I don't know about Manchin.
At least a decriminalization is possible.
And Biden,
I don't know about
if they get Biden to it, like that was the one thing that Biden wouldn't even put in the platform as like a concession. Like he was very from his hard on crime days, like it was his anti-drug days, like that's very much still a part of him. Like that's a part of him, but that would be a thing. Like that's what Democratic Party needs to do is build that like structural power to be like say Biden, you better pass Medicare for all, or there are going to be serious consequences for you. You won't have the Democratic turnout. Like you got to give us something here. Like you got to like speak to your base a little bit. Like
there are many historical precedents for when presidents like Biden, who are veteran establishment members of the party, take power. I'm thinking LBJ and Chester A. Arthur in particular, and the radical activist wings. And I say that just because I wouldn't say like progressive or whatever, because it's like not the right term, but they were scared about these guys coming into power because they feared that they were just going to be establishment cucks and not accomplish anything and be corrupt and be, and succumb to the worst whims of their past career. But the public pressure that they felt upon assuming office is what convinced them to do stuff like civil service reform with Arthur and civil rights with Johnson.
Yeah.
Like Johnson was a Texas Democrat. He was the president who passed the Civil Rights Act using his congressional influence. So, I mean, I would say that
and the Great
Biden's
Society.
Past, and Biden's past is useful in judging the man that he is, but I think that there are also a lot of circumstances around him today that are not like what we've had ever before. His agenda is very good. Like it's much, much better than anything we've had from Democrats in the past. So there could be a new leaf turning in Biden that we.
I certainly hope so.
Well, his environmental views, definitely. I mean, his environmental views, like you saw, he put like Michael Reagan shocked me. Okay, in a good way, by the way, because Michael Reagan has a phenomenal record on environmental justice, on environmental protections. He took on a major coal company in North Carolina and beat them. That's Duke Energy, in case you're wondering the name. It's actually a big lawsuit that they're still in regards to coal ash ponds, the coal ash leaking into the water table in parts of northwest North Carolina, which is now represented by Madison Cawthorn, to give context. But, that choice stunned me in a good way, because he did listen to the black leaders for that choice. I mean, not only did he choose an African American, I don't really care about that. I don't care about, he's African American, he's going to represent the African American community. Well, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking more for someone who has a record that can speak for actually delivering environmental justice, environmental protections, and a road ahead that actually puts the earth first in the Environmental Protection Agency, which is what we don't really have right now. And the same thing can be said for his Department of Interior. Absolutely phenomenal. Like choosing a Native American who, by the way, that group gave him part of the victory in Arizona. So yes. Biden recognizes
the Deb Haaland pick was really good.
Yeah, the whole thing, that some people are saying, I'm not saying you, Spencer, I'm just saying, I've, just heard others people say Biden's just going to choose Republicans for everything. He's really shocking me in a good way that he's not.
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of things to nitpick about Biden. I definitely say there's gonna I have a lot of personally a lot of criticisms about him, but I don't think that's anything. And I'm trying to raise the groundwork because I fear that stuff is going to happen with Obama, where there's going to be no public pressure, and a lot of bad things could happen for that. But yeah, just for people who may be listening or looking at the results, maybe they're watching on TV on mute and listening to us. Pretty much what's happening now, the reason why we see Ossoff and Warnock down a little bit is Republicans, they've taken this narrow lead in the tabulated vote, but the thing is, Democrats are still clear favorites in both races because the overwhelming majority of remaining votes are in the Atlanta metro area, where the race remains competitive. There's no indication that Republicans are poised to outperform expectations in that area specifically. So the big Democratic vote left is going to be the DeKalb County early vote, and they get more votes coming in the days to come. We expect those votes, New York Times does, to break, there are 170,000 votes to break for Ossoff by an 85-15 margin.
Wow, that's incredible.
So that is a big.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
it's going to be a big thing.
Georgia really did bring it home for the Democrats tonight.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just watching these ads
though.
that
Georgia's first black senator.
Yes.
Well.
I know. Yeah.
Yes.
Arizona and Georgia. In the last
Arizona
2 years.
Arizona I'm not shocked though about, because Arizona was already pretty much going, and McCain towards the end of his term did notice that, and he literally wrote a letter. I read it because I was just reading it for a project for something, and he wrote a letter. I forgot. Oh, I think it was actually to Biden of all people, if I'm correct. I'm just saying maybe. I honestly can't remember who he wrote it to, but he was you were right. My state is turning pretty more blue, because I only won my race by I think 7%, no 6%, compared to winning by 15 or 16 I did previous years. He did try to become more of a centrist, tilting to the right senator. I mean, you can disagree with me on that, but his record before he passed away sadly was going a little bit more towards the center of the road. I mean, he only voted with Trump in his last year, which was in the 160th Congress.
Very interestingly though, didn't he have 64. A big fight over immigration during the Tea Party years, where he he was build the damn fence, and that's that was a big thing that he
because at the time but it's actually funny thing, because Arizona used to be very red, and they wanted a wall. And then now with all the the large amount of Central Americans there, tilting the scale basically to the Democrats, McSally ran that message. If McSally ran, I don't know, let's say 10 years ago, she probably would have beat Mark Kelly.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is,
2010 definitely.
Definitely 2010. 2010 was up the alley for the Republicans. The thing with Arizona's Central American voters is they don't want a wall, because they recognize, as well as most people, not just them, that a wall is not necessary. It's a waste of money, and also the tribal land is down there, and that's part of the reason why I said the tribes in southern Arizona delivered for Biden because they saw the threat of Trump's wall going over their land. It's actually a whole 60-minute segment on it about one of the tribes on there that was worried about the wall being built because their water table, like where they have a water well, is on the other side of the border in Mexico by 100 feet. And so if the wall was built,
would cut it off.
They literally would not have their water. It's not like a lie. Like they literally wouldn't have their water.
Yeah, I have breaking news. Donald Trump just tweeted 1 minute ago, looks like they're setting up a big voter dump against the Republican candidates. Waiting to see how many votes they need, question mark?
Yeah, maybe they want to find more votes.
Yeah, they're going to find
more. Also known as counting the remaining votes.
That phone call was
Stop the count, guys.
Funny.
Yes.
He was Brad, can you just find some 11,780 votes for me? You have a lawyer over there who sounds pretty smart, but I think he's screwing up a lot, right, Ryan? No, Mr. President, everything's pretty good right now in Georgia. I think you're lying.
It's like he's trying to apply the business intimidation tactics of the 1980s to electoral. He's like, you got a lawyer there, man.
He's trying to run the government like a business. He literally thinks he can run the government like a business. He did that with the tax bill. He did that with his election. I mean, literally.
Yeah, one of his businesses.
It's a joke on foreign policy. After the California wildfires as well, I know that's not foreign policy, that's more domestic policy. He literally didn't want to give money to them because he, quote unquote, what's the guy's name? He left, he wrote a op-ed as anonymous. Now he came out. I forgot the guy's name already. Miles Taylor. He came out, because he worked for Homeland Security, and he was like, yeah, Trump didn't want to give any money to California because they didn't vote for him. That's how crazy this, he literally is a businessman in the White House, treating it like a business. He's just so dumb. And I'm happy that he's out. I really wish, I know a lot of people here don't like Warren, but I wish, my girlfriend Warren was on the ballot instead of Biden. But, sadly we had to deal with Biden. But at this point in the game, between Biden and Trump, I'm just a little bit pleased that it's not Trump again, because it was very close to actually being Trump again. In some, Arizona, Georgia had very tight margins. But
think about it. It really is it is really pretty crazy to say that the former pastor of MLK's church is going to be the senator from all of Georgia going in for the first time. It is
especially when he was painted as a radical. That was he's a Marxist. He literally went to the library. Because literally they use the same attacks. They called MLK a Marxist, a communist, a person who hated the police. They actually, I know we don't like the Lincoln Project. I don't like the Lincoln Project, but they actually made a pretty good ad outlining that. It's a 30-second TV ad, but
yeah. So far,
no, I'm not sourcing that.
Yeah, so far right now, what we see is over the last hour or so, a lot of remaining GOP vote has trickled in, leaving an even more Democratic group of remaining ballots. Ossoff now is favored to win what's out there by 18 points. So that is a good sign for him. So he could actually get a pretty big... Yeah, the voter dump is coming, folks. It's coming.
And the predicted has it now as 92 cents. Which party wins the Senate? Democrats. Also, by the way, 4 hours ago, before the polls closed, I watched it go into the 70-cent zone for the Republicans to win the Senate. And the two Senate seats turned to 65 cents. Per seat for the Republicans. So all those people who dumped money into the Republicans are literally losing money.
Yeah, there were people who were betting on Trump after the election had already ended.
Oh yeah, my cousin bet on Trump winning.
That's insane.
It's crazy. It's crazy how OAN and fucking Newsmax. They propagate such a lie on Trump. There are many pathways for Trump to victory. There's zero pathways for Trump to victory.
No, they also they had a map. They had a map the other day on Newsmax. I saw a screenshot of where they were due to the Newsmax team recalculated all the errors the Democrats still refused to show. So they had a map with Trump winning Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, because they were so we recalculated all the results and we added the necessary amount of votes that Trump was stolen during the election.
Yeah,
they're really so bonkers. It's insane.
Yeah, didn't they get sued almost from Dominion?
They almost did, yeah, because they distorted the electoral map. Like people were believing them. Like that's actually it's not a crime.
Distorted the electoral map. What?
Well, because they changed it. You didn't